Welcome! This is Sophie, the food blogger behind A Kitchen in Uganda, and what you are listening to is our new podcast called Our Food Stories, a podcast where we as a community share food stories from our past that have raised and sustained our ancestors and eventually ourselves. Episode 3. This food is very well known for its versatility, from street fried cassava that we all love so much that we usually eat for breakfast, to steamed cassava that we usually eat for lunch, to a popularly known delicacy of owundu, which is made of cassava flour. Cassava is very well loved in this part of the country. Today's guest is going to be talking to us about cassava and how it sustains lives, but most importantly, how the process of preparing this food helps remove a popularly known toxin, cyanide. I don't want to give everything away, so sit back, relax, and listen to this story.
My name is Simon Bwambale from Cassava in Uganda. I'm going to talk about a process of making dry cassava, which is processed into bondo. You know, our forefathers and mothers had a way of doing things and processing things, which I think is better than what we are doing now. And this is the process. It started with uprooting cassava, and after uprooting cassava, you peel the cassava, but the peeling was optional. You could leave it without peeling it, or you peel it. The second part was putting it in Ekilobeko. That is in a stagnant pool of water so that it can ferment in water. Ekilobeko was just a dugout hole just adjacent a flowing stream so that you can direct some water into that hole until the hole is full. Then that's where you will put your cassava. And cassava used to be kept there for about a week or two, depending on the temperature of the weather and on the temperature of the area. The cooler the place, the longer the time stayed in the Ekilobeko, in the pool, so that it can ferment. 2 weeks later, the cassava could be removed from the Ekilobeko, and if it was not peeled, then it could be peeled. And after peeling it, could be spread on a rack-like structure, for a structure constructed with poles and raising above the ground about 6 feet above the ground. And on the rack, the cassava could stay there as long as it gets dry. But there are times when the cassava could not dry easily owing to the weather. And so our mothers could, after it has stayed there for about a day or two and all the water has dripped out of it, they could transfer it and take it home to a kitanda. After removing it from a chitalalango, I did not tell you the name of the rack. It was called a chitalalango. That is the rack-like structure. So it could be removed from a chitalalango and brought into homes to a chitanda. What is a chitanda? A chitanda is also a rack-like structure like a chitalalango, but the rack-like structure is built in a house above the hearth, the cooking place, so that the heat of the fire and of the smoke can dry the cassava in the chitanda. And this could take a little good time, but the cassava could stay there as many days as it would be wanted to be cooked. For instance, it could take there even 6 months. It's no problem as long as it is dry, because it won't go bad. So that was a chitanda above the hearth. Then when the cassava is dry, it is called a mikukulube, as I told you, and these can be kept for any time that you want. You don't have to preserve it. It can take a year or two without going bad, and especially when it was put in the kitanda, because the kitanda, the smoke that came on it, put a cover that would protect the cassava for a long time. And so after this, what we would like to look at the advantages of doing so. Advantage number one was that cassava is known to be containing cyanide. So this process eradicated cyanide, or let me say reduced cyanide to a considerable level, to the level that the body can take it in. Then another thing is that this process gave the cassava a nice aroma, such a way that when you are eating gibundu, it has a nice smell. Another advantage was that it was always easy to process, because it has been made soft in the process of fermentation. And of course, when you mingle the cassava to make it into bundu, it was always easy to make, because it is not too much sticky. And perhaps lastly, even the eating itself, it was soft to eat and soft to swallow, because it is not too sticky for you as you are eating it. It was very convenient. So another thing which I remember my mother doing when we were at the process of removing this cassava from Ekilobeko, the process we use to call Ekilobeko. Ekilobeko is where we lobeka the cassava, and Ekilobeko is removing the cassava from the Ekilobeko. I remember my mother could peel a piece of cassava right from Ekilobeko, and then she covers it with banana leaves, and then pushes it in the hot fire ash. Because remember, this process was it always took a long time. If you are going to peel the cassava, remove the cassava from the Ekilobeko and peel it, it always took a lot of time, because it was always a lot of cassava in the process. So we would stay there long hours, and she would prepare that for us to have something to eat, to snack on. So tie it in a banana leaf, push it in hot ash, and then it cooks there. And when it comes there and you are removing the leaf, the aroma was so nice, and it was always so tasty for us. That's one of the things that we could long for when my mother used it to lobeka the bundu and so forth. So that's what we can say about this process. The cassava is dry now, and the next process will be processing it until it is flour, ready to cook and be eaten. Thank you so much. As for now, we can talk about this.
Wow, that was a lot. I'm always interested to know how people used to make life work for them way back in the past. For example, who would have known that a stream or a river would be used for so many things aside from collecting water? What intrigued you the most about this episode? Connect with us on social media at A Kitchen in Uganda and use the hashtag OurFoodStoriesUG to share your comments with us. Fun fact, the person who just shared this story is very dear and close to my heart. This is my very own father, and I believe that with this story, he is the person who instilled my love for cassava in me. He can tell you that from a young age, I've always adored and loved eating anything that has cassava in it. So it's really interesting to know how his mother, who is my grandmother, how they prepared this food and how they preserved it and how they removed the toxins. Remember, if you are a Ugandan or if you were born and raised in Uganda, you can contribute to this podcast by reaching out to us at A Kitchen in Uganda on Instagram or at akitcheninuganda@gmail.com to contribute to this podcast. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.